can check, it's 9:58. Pwede nyo yung sabihin kung 10, lampas ng 10 o'clock, pa-accept ko or whatsoever. Wala pa naman, I'm already doing it eh. Because it's like you're telling your teacher, make it fast. Diba, it's a simple line, but its meaning. Kung ma-accept ito, hindi pa ako nakadamit ng maayos, ano ba?
Ma'am, I'm sorry po.
Oo, please. Hindi yun polite. It's not polite. I just have to say it. Kasi parang pipindutin ko na nga eh, nagme-message na nga ako na ano. Alright. Regarding your I have to be straightforward because it's also for you. This is not to please your teacher, but it is how you behave during online classes. During online, how to behave. And nothing else. Don't take it against me or the person. You have to learn that because that's dealing with people. Whom are you talking to? Dealing with people around you. Okay, time check. It's 9:59. What time did I say for photo attendance? 10 o'clock?
10, ma'am.
Yan. Wait, magka-clock in muna ako. I need to clock in. Yan. Alright, everybody turn on your cameras for photo attendance. In 5, 4, 3, 2, I'm waiting for the others. In 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Okay, I'll post it first. Please read a bit. Sectionary is A. Today is October 16, 2020. I'll just edit this later. Allow me to post it now. I'll just edit it for later's photo attendance for dismissal. I'll post it to in your Google Classroom. I mean in your Messenger. All right. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Last time we discussed about giftedness. Today is the continuation of Module 5, which is giftedness, creativity, and wisdom. Can somebody tell me his or her very own takeaway with giftedness as a topic in positive psychology? Anyone? Anything you remember? About physiological aspects of giftedness, about the psychological aspects of giftedness. Okay, I'll start. So, one thing about, sige, please, do the honor, Miss Who is it?
Um,
Miss Pasipe, go.
giftedness can be hereditary. Can hereditary get to can hereditary basta yun ma'am.
Is
Yes,
hereditary.
ma'am. Thank you.
All right. All right. Thank you, Miss Kasipe. Kasipe, yes, giftedness is hereditary. And pwede mo pa yung sundan. What else would support giftedness? So if it's, yes, it's correct that it's hereditary, but how will it flourish? How will it be developed more? Who would like to add?
Cervantes, ma'am.
Okay, Ms. Cervantes.
Ma'am, giftedness is a uniqueness characteristic of a human being.
All right, it's a unique characteristic of a human being. So they are somewhat, if we're looking at the normal curve, so they are given the definition mentioned by Ms. Cervantes. So when we're looking in the normal curve, so giftedness is somewhat at the sides and not at the middle of that curve. All right, there's something unique about them. What else? How about the definition itself? When we say giftedness, it means what?
Cervantes, ma'am.
Cervantes. Go.
Ma'am, giftedness own definitions from our module is outstanding ability and performance in one or more domains.
All right, so there's the term outstanding ability. Outstanding in a sense that they are not just with they are not just having high level of ability. When you say outstanding, their performance is superb. They can actually be um, well known because of their extraordinary ability. Okay. Are there more before we proceed to creativity? All right. So thank you, Ms. Casipe Cervantes, for your sharing on giftedness. In terms of its psychological adjustments, it was mentioned last time that their the adjustment and their efforts in um, in social skills is twice as much as compared to those who are non-gifted. So there would be even occasions in wherein they would have to hide their talent just to get acceptance from peer. And the reason for that is because, of course, those who are gifted, for the fact alone that they are different, people are having a hard time in relating to them, in dealing with them. And so most of the time, they prefer to be alone. They long for acceptance yan, by the peers. Actually, there are so many things to say about giftedness. And later in your quiz, so what we're doing right now is continuation of discussion later after this. And also to give time, I thought I've already relayed to you the quiz on giftedness. So section E told me that it was not mentioned, it was not said. So later I'll give you time to review also. It's 1 to 10 item, true or false about giftedness. So consider those that were mentioned by Ms. Casipe and Cervantes because of those things they've shared were actually given in that true or false item in the quiz. Okay. Yan, malapit na. Wait. Creativity tayo. Yan. Before, ano, yeah, it's really it's really not going to be discussed in one sitting because giftedness, creativity, and wisdom are three concepts in positive psychology. And don't forget that in studying positive psychology, of course, our goal, if you can recall, is to how to make one flourish, how to make one's life worth living, the scientific study of making one's life worth living. So those were just some of the definitions. What else? To attain subjective well-being. And relating those definitions of positive psychology, as we study giftedness, creativity, and wisdom, of course, there's a need for us, for you, if you will happen to be future educators, to be able to identify who are the students who happen to possess giftedness, creativity, and wisdom, and also for for those the and also for those persons who are actually possessing um, um, this giftedness, creativity, and wisdom, in order for them to know how to go about their condition, their situation, how are they going to develop it in order for them to be productive and manage to be happy no matter how different or no matter how um yun nga, differently able they are in attaining certain things, especially in terms of their social skills. Alright, so moving on, we're now going to discuss creativity. By definition, as compared to giftedness, let's compare giftedness to creativity. Giftedness is when somebody um, happens to possess, as mentioned earlier also by Mr. Vantes, an outstanding ability, whatever domain that is, let it be in academics, in and consider all those multiple intelligences. So that's what we consider giftedness. All right, it can be of any field. It can be of combination of two or more, for as long as their ability is outstanding, it's excellent, it's superb, etc. Whereas creativity is the capacity to produce work that is both novel and useful. That's how you're going to define creativity in the context of positive psychology. If you would notice, along this module, creativity is associated with adolescents and above. We call them creative adults. For giftedness, we associate them with children. We tell them we call them gifted children. Gifted children, when supported properly, when given the right amount of assistance, support, and help, they would lead into becoming creative adults and then going to wisdom eventually. With creativity, it's important that we understand it as something that will be created, that they will be able to produce something useful and as it says here, novel and useful, whether they are artists, scientists, creative, those who are good in video filmmaking, whatsoever, movie making, short films, whatever their creativity would fall on. With creativity in adult, we're after what are they going to produce as an output, as a product, as a masterpiece at the end. With, with giftedness, it's we are focusing on the outstanding ability and how to make that flourish, how to make that develop. Okay, next. So please read the first statement on Freud. Can I call on, I'll be the one to call this time. Can I call on Miss Alves? Miss Alves, please read in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Freud,
Arsenio.
Ma'am,
All right.
Freud 1908 underlined the importance of non-rational primary
primary process thinking in creativity, and so creative output as a socially acceptable way of expressing unacceptable unconscious aggressive and sexual drive for power and love.
All right, come on.
Gestalt psychologists, notably Mom
Wertheimer.
Weather 1945, focused on processes involving insights, learning such as transformation, figure ground, reversal, and closure.
All right, thank you very much, Miss Albert. Knowing Freud and his theory. So Freud is known for his psychosexual theory. In relation to creativity, he viewed it as a way of expressing the person's, the creative person's sexual drives for power and love. And we leave that to Freud. That's how he views things. And that's his very own theory. So he saw creative output as a socially acceptable way of expressing unacceptable, unconscious, aggressive, and sexual drives for power or love. So if you're an artist, let's say for example, you paint your artwork, your masterpiece for Freud, he sees that as your output for self-expression on how you're going to be acceptable socially in terms of what desires and the unconscious aggressive um, desires that you have, which is aiming for love or power. And with that of Gestalt psychologist Wertheimer, you can also recall Gestalt psychology in which it focuses on transformation, figure ground, reversal, and closure, those of perception. So, of course, with creativity, these things are those that can be of focus as well. All right, those that of Wertheimer. In psychometric tradition, Guilford conceptualized creativity as a set of divergent thinking skills within his structure of intellect model. That's according to the psychometric tradition. So he somewhat associated creativity still with um, conceptual or cognitive processes of the brain. So it would still have something to do with intelligence, if you will notice, which incorporated both convergent thinking skills evaluated by IQ tests and divergent skills. Modern studies of creativity have been conducted to throw light on cognitive processes, personal characteristics, psychophysiological processes, lifespan development, and social context associated with creativity. So everything that you are giving out as a product, as a masterpiece, as a as an output, it would involve actually cognitive aspects, cognitive domain. You thought of that. You created that in your mind. It's something that your brain has actually produced out of your ability, out of your intelligence, out of your intellect. Whatever creation you were able to make, all right, it would still have something to do on how you process those things in your thinking, in your brain. Another fairly comprehensive theories were that of also Zygmunt-Mihaly and Sternberg and Lubart's investment theory. So we know Zygmunt-Mihaly in his flow theory. And in flow theory, as you can recall, who are most likely to experience flow? Who are the people mostly on flow state? They are the artists, they are the creative ones, the gifted ones, those who are involved into composing music, those who are musically inclined people, painters, dancers, singers, and the like. And with that, he was able to come out with his system's model of creativity. And Sternberg and Lubartz, on the other hand, has the theory called investment theory of creativity. How and why is it called investment theory? Later, at the latter part of the module, it will be discussed. Okay. Cultures which facilitate creativity. Please read for me Arsenio and Sebastian.
Cultures which promote creativity are probably those in which information is physically stored accurately rather than transmitted orally, and accessible to all members of the culture rather than kept secret from all but a few.
Some more.
The more differentiated the separated domains within the culture, such as religion, science, and art, and the more loosely coupled these domains are, the more likely new ideas are to be accepted, since the innovations will entail changes within only a circumcised part of the culture. The more exposed the culture is to information from the other cultures, the more likely the occurrence of creative innovation.
Very good, thank you. So for cultures which facilitate creativity, can you think of any group of people who practices their culture and incorporating creativity in their culture? Wag na tayo lumayo in the Philippines. Can you think of any culture in which creativity is very much observed?
Sa Baguio.
Wants to? Yes.
Sa Baguio po, yung mga Igorot
Okay,
po.
Baguio. At akala ko, alright, this reciting. Wait, let me check. Alright. Miss Tan, Tangpus.
Sa
So,
Baguio po,
in Baguio, so tell me more about it. What about the people in Baguio? What do they promote? What is their culture?
madalas po silang gumawa ng mga designs gamit yung mga bulaklak nila. Tsaka po gumawa ng mga delicacy sa gamit yung strawberries.
Let's say, for example, Benka Museum. So Benka is a well-known artist. He has this museum, and he's very into promoting their culture. His works are there, and also the creations of the people in their community. So that's culture that is facilitating creativity. Yes, they do have their very own um, art, creative arts. You can see that through different. It can be in music also. They have that certain kind of um, culture in which they play musical instruments. If you visit Baguio, diba, they will also ask you to wear what they for photo taking, for picture taking, and the like. As to me, I can the first thing that comes into my mind is that of Apple Wang if you can recall, yon. So what are they promoting in their culture, in their creativity? You would see their tattoos, and she was successful in making their creativity and their culture um, popular across globe. So that's culture that facilitate creativity. The good thing there is that they were making our country known to other countries. There are even tourists coming in the Philippines just to pay visit pay visit who go to Abuang and have their skin tattooed especially by her. And it's not only this particular culture is promoting their very own culture. It's making their identity intact. They are very much known for that. And it's very successful promotion of one's culture such that it's not only transmitted orally, they are actually practicing it. It's accessible to all members of the community. It's not kept a secret from all, but a few. So when you say that, that means there's really a success that you can consider in promoting their very own culture. And that's how you facilitate creativity within a culture. Okay. Ako naman. Domains which facilitate creativity. So when we say domains, we are talking about different creativity within domain would be such of religion, politics, and science, creative arts, humanities, all in which you can actually make use of your creativity. All those platforms by which you can perform creativity. So when you say domains which facilitate creativity, whether they are groups of scientists, groups of artists, what do they do? They promote they and how do you call that? They inspire each other. They influence each other such that they will be able to come up with a particular output. So whichever group you happen to have aspect or in that particular domain or in that particular aspect, so you will be able to when yeah. So symbols are used to record information, probably promote greater innovation because of the ease with which they can incorporate new ideas into existing base knowledge. So they continue to inspire each one. They
Ma'am, wala pong boses.
talk together, they gather, they would exchange thoughts, ideas. Oh, ba't nawala? Wait. Sorry. I don't know why what happened. What happened?
Yes po.
I hope it won't echo anymore.
Nag-e-echo po, ma'am.
Ma'am, magkalapit po ata yung sa phone niya tsaka yung laptop.
How is it now?
Nag-echo pa rin po,
Oh
ma'am.
my God. Kaya nga eh. Alright, is my audio clear now?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Do I have... Okay na?
Opo.
Apa.
Okay, yan na lang.
Yes po.
Okay, good. I don't know what happened eh. I don't know why bigla na lang ako nawala. Because I was presenting on my screen. I usually make use of my screen, of my laptop for presentation and my other gadget to take a look at those whom I would like to authorize to accept joining info, etc. Okay. Societies which facilitate creativity. So earlier we had domains. This time we have societies which facilitate creativity. Please read for me, Miss Campos, sorry, Mr. pala ito, Camposano. Please read for us. Society. Castro, Divine Grace.
Yes, ma'am. Societies in which there is
Castro,
surplus physical.
hello?
Yes, ma'am.
Castro, Divine Grace, your turn.
Nawala po yung yung presentation, ma'am.
Go. Sorry.
Society.
Okay, pero hindi ko na eh.
Okay na po, ma'am.
Opo, go.
Societies in which there is surplus physical and mental energy are more likely to promote creativity than those in which all energy is devoted to survival. Societies that value change and innovation with mercantile economies are more likely to foster creativity than those committed to convention and maintaining the status quo. Societies in which there are external threats or internal strife foster creativity.
Alright, so this time, we are talking about supportive communities that facilitate creativity. If you would notice, here in Rizal, some part in Rizal, Binangonan and Angono are actually very good at promoting their very own creativity, their culture. Um, they do have their well-known not only museums and art museums and the like it. We have been to art museum and more. There are also restaurants, balaw-balaw, in which creativity is also very much observed, not only in the food that they serve, but also in the restaurant itself, if you happen to visit it already. And on their festival, they promote their very own creative works. So there's Gigantes Festival, people would have to wear their very own creations in terms of clothes and the like. So these are kinds of societies, communities that are supporting creativity, which facilitate um, societies which facilitate creativity. That's what I would like to say. So physical, mental energy are most likely to promote creativity, in which they are all energy devoted to survival. Also, they are helping in their economy by promoting their very own creativity within societies. So, this is what we're talking about when we talk about creativity, we are always after on what can we contribute to people, what can we offer to the people in our community. So from here they can also gain profitable um, output. Alright, so for societies that facilitate creativity, very much evident ang culture, ang creativity within society. For fields which facilitate creativity, so whatever field in which a person is good at, so fields are likely to promote creativity if their practitioners can obtain economic resources or status with in what field would you happen to belong if we are talking about the value of new ideas on religious, political, economic considerations, it is less likely to promote creativity. Creativity flourish will not flourish where the field is very independent from other domains of society and has few links with them. So creativity and field shouldn't be separated. They always go together. They cannot go independent from each one. It creativity will not flourish if it is separated from the field. So this is what this paragraph is trying to imply. So overly bureaucratic fields that are rigidly organized constraints originality. What will happen? Domains that have lacked criteria for admitting new ideas debase the domain, and those that of too stringent criteria stifle creativity. Correct. Is it stifle? A while ago, it's stifle. So criteria that stifle creativity. So again, when we talk about fields, you cannot separate the field to creativity. This create such that creativity will not flourish if it's independent of the field. Another thing that facilitates creativity, family. It's very important. So family support, siblings, parents, significant in the life, in the personhood of in the personhood of someone who happens to be gifted or creative. How you've grown in a family, self-concept of the person, its moral, its how the person perceives itself will be very much affected. Alright, so individuals who have grown up in families which have surplus energy and resources to devote to curiosity and creativity are more likely to be creative. So there's a need also to give much effort, resources, support in order for creativity to prosper or to progress. Such that if there's somebody who happens to be gifted in music, and you've seen and observed that creativity in that person, the type of person you did not give the training that it needs, the materials that the person needs, etc. So what will happen to creativity with that person now? It will not flourish, in other words. So creativity is fostered where there is respect within family for learning. So meaning you you are recognizing that that person in the family happens to be gifted, happens to be creative. So you have to respect that. Creativity is more likely to occur where family can introduce a child to a domain or field. How? Training, school, mentorship, athletic, artistic, pastimes, etc. Next, creativity is more likely where individuals grow up in marginalized families and want to break out of the situation. So family support is one thing that is very important for someone who happens to be creative. Please read personal characteristics which facilitate. Naku, mamamatay na yung aking cellphone. Wait. Wait. Yeah, never mind, nawala na siyang see that facilitate creativity. Miss Season. Sorry, namatay yung cellphone ko. I didn't notice. Miss Season,
Yes, ma'am.
go on.
Rinig po ako.
Opo, clear. We can hear you very well.
Okay na po.
Yes, we're waiting.
First, conducive to creative includes special talents of aptitude in strict motivation to work in the field in which of talented, well-developed, divergent
Divergent.
thinking skills divergent thinking skills, and openness in experience, flexibility, and unconventional disposition. To make a creativity successful, one must have internalized the rules of the domain and the opinions in the field, be satisfied with some aspect of this, and then come up with variety of new ideas. At this point, the kernel and creativity is recognizing the good new ideas and being able to hold on this and discard the less useful ideas.
All right. Thank you very much, Mrs. Son. And the most important aspect in facilitating creativity is none other than the person itself. So when we're talking about personal characteristics which facilitate creativity, that person, um, there's a need for that person to be open to experience, to have flexibility, to have a well-developed divergent thinking skills, and to have an unconventional disposition in life. So personal characteristics will definitely facilitate creativity. And failure to condition oneself into um, creative adult or gifted child would matter a lot if the person itself is unmotivated, the person itself is not interested whatsoever. So personal characteristics will play a significant role in facilitating creativity. Now, to explain investment theory of Sternberg and Lubards, if you can recall, when we say investment, most likely we are talking about money or whatsoever, property, etc. With Sternberg and Lubards investment theory, we're talking about intellectual property, um, personal collections, ideas, ano pa, whatever it is that is owned by the person who happens to be gifted, who happens to be creative. Halimbawa, it's music, it's kung we're talking about music and then the person happens to compose something, a melody of the song, whatsoever. So kung artwork, the idea was there. So if you're going to talk about intellectual property, so it's the concept, let's say for example, is owned by somebody. How will this investment theory work? So investment theory of creativity is when individuals make creative contribution to a field when they buy low and sell high in the field of ideas. That is, they buy or adopt poorly developed ideas which are unpopular or unfamiliar, but which have growth potential. So they would buy idea from creative people and then they will develop it into something um, big, gigantic. They will develop it into something um, more, they will develop it into something even more, um, I can't find the right word, I can find the right term, but let me just end it with they will develop it. They've seen potential in that idea, in that initial creation, in that masterpiece, so they will buy it, but yun nga, they will buy it low. They will develop it into something new and improved one, and then eventually they will sell high. So that's how we call investment theory. In the Philippines, sadly, we have Filipino scientists who happens to have inventions, concepts, ideas, creations, and then, because of lack of support, both from family, society, government, sama-samahin na, and only the person happens to have um, that creation, yun lang, they are forced to sell it. Yun, there will be people to buy it low, and then they will develop it where? In what country? In Russia, in Japan. And then, what happens? So, those persons who develop it will be more popular and they are the ones being known for that creation and not for the person from where whom they buy the concept at a very, very low price. So that's what we call Sternberg and Lubert's investment theory, talking about creativity. Research findings, actually, there are broad conclusions to be drawn about the stages of creativity. Talking about stages of creativity, so since the Gestalt psychologist's early formulations, numerous theories have proposed that the process of creativity follows series of stages, meaning creativity did not just happen overnight. So there have been series of stages as to how the person develops his or her very own creativity, whatever domain that is. It did not happen over time. Such studies have focused on the lives of, so these are just some of the well-known, gifted, creative people in different fields. So the naturalist and Piaget, so Darwin and Piaget, the polymath, Einstein, the physicist, Freud, the psychoanalyst, Gandhi, the political activist. There's Picasso, Stravinsky, Eliot, the poet, Martha Graham, the dancer, John Stuart Mill, Norbert Wiener, the founder of cybernetics, George Bernard Shaw, the writer, Michael Faraday, the scientist. That's according to How in 1989. What's common about these people? They are popularly known across the globe for their giftedness and creativity. Creative adults have a history of many years of training to gain expert knowledge in their field. So later in your test, true or false, if you'll be asked of whether or not creativity is only hereditary and nothing else matter, then you should go back to this very line. They undergo series of training for so many years. Yan. So case studies have borne out Zigzag-Mihaly, in which hypothesis that to make a creative contribution, the individual must have internalized rules of domain. So here we're talking about the discipline of the person who possesses creativity and giftedness. Acts of creativity which may appear as sudden insight into how particular problems may be solved typically follow long and hard work on details. So these are their very own masterpiece. These are their very own work, their contribution. So they would really make effort on the very small details of their work. And lastly, most creative people have a sense of their finished product before they start. So it's usually they have already designed that in their head. Their minds have actually created it. They know in their mind as to what output, what final product would they want to have as a result. So most likely, they will not just start something and then come what may. They are not that kind of person. They've already designed it in their head, and that's when they start to work on what they have actually created in their heads. Alright, so I hope you get that well. Please read individual differences. Miss Reyes. Individual differences in creativity. Please read. That of Guilford. Miss Reyes. Miss Reyes
Yes,
is
ma'am.
here.
Hindi ko pa makita yung presentation lang po. Guilford, 1967, who viewed creative abilities as a subset of skills within his structure of the intellect model, developed divergent thinking skills tests to evaluate this. Torrance, 1974, and others have continued this research tradition by developing creative thinking test model in style on intelligence tests, which show that there are individual differences in creativity which are normally distributed within the population.
Alright. So talking about individual differences, no matter how creative the person is, Tsaka there are no two people that are alike, no two individuals are alike. So with creativity and giftedness. So individual differences in creativity matter. As Guilford view it, this creative abilities, as Guilford view creativity, so he viewed creative abilities as a subset of skills within structure of intellect model. All right, so the we have to consider that there are individual differences in creativity which are normally distributed within population. Again, for individual differences in creativity, we recognize uniqueness among these creative adults and gifted children. Intelligence and creativity. Please, ano lang kasi it's 10:48 na. So, sino nag-recite? Reyes? Alright. With intelligence and creativity, what's important to take note here is that creativity and intelligence are independent set of abilities. They can stand alone. All right. It does not follow that an intelligent person is creative. So with creativity, it does not follow that a creative person is intelligent. So they are standing independently. There are creative adults who happens to have a very low IQ. And also there are intelligent people who are not creative. So these are two different and independent set of abilities. Yeah, talking about intelligence and creativity. For personality and creativity, so Fitz 1999 in a thorough literature review of empirical studies concluded that compared with normal controls, we're talking about normal controls. Creative artists and scientists have different personalities. How do the personalities of artists and scientists differ? In a in an observation in a study, their personality profiles differ from each other insofar as scientists are more conscientious. When you say conscientious, they are painstakingly working on something, very careful with their work, very meticulous from the very small details of what they do. While artists are emotionally unstable, talking about personality, so masyado emotional. And not only that, when you say emotionally unstable and unconventional, so it's really something that we really have to take look into. Artists, those who are involved in painting, um, sculpture, yan. It says here as the personality type of people happens to have that ability. Sino nga yung artist that was murdered lately? He's a well-known, I forgot the name And there's a picture posted and that picture of her has so much to say. When you look into the eyes of that girl, yun, di ba? The story happened in Baguio, I'm not really sure. And they happened to have an argument, and what happened next is that the person tried to, ayun, we do not know yet what really happened there, but um, whether there's a foul play or if it's suicide whatsoever, but you can actually sense, looking at the picture of that girl, that there's something going through her. It's being ganun when you look at someone's eyes, you can actually tell if there's something bothering to that person. So yun. These are just some of the results of the researches comparing personalities of scientists and artists. So these are just some of the results of those studies. Motivation and creativity. Who can recall what is intrinsic motivation as compared to extrinsic motivation? Volunteer before I call on someone. Intrinsic motivation is when alright, wala. Sayang oras. Available. So, intrinsic motivation, again, we're talking about creativity. When we say intrinsic motivation, it's the kind of motivation wherein the person is doing the work because he loves it, because it gives him a sense of self-worth, because it's satisfying to the person, and he's gaining something beautiful about his or her work, and that's something within him only understand, all right? But with extrinsic motivation, there's some kind of reward that the person is getting out of his creativity or out of his giftedness. How? There are people who can perform concerts if they can sing well, so they get paid for their performance. For those who are good in arts, they're selling their paintings, their artwork. So they are also having some kind of motivation out of what they earn from their outputs, from their masterpiece. So intrinsic motivation and extrinsic motivation um, are important factors in creativity, in making one flourish one's creativity. For yan, task-related feedback, motivation, work cycle match. So these are just some of the extrinsic motivators. Brain processes and creativity. Yan, um, ayun. So for psychophysiological studies of creativity indicates that creative people show low levels of cortical activation. So we're talking about physiological aspects. All right. How does the brain process in creativity? So there is low level of cortical activation during the inspiration stage. So when upon hearing inspiration stage, flow theory is what comes into my mind. So we are about to enter the flow state here during the inspiration stage of creativity, and high levels of cortical activation when resting the non-creative people. So that's according to Martin Gill. That's what we can say about brain processes and creativity. Okay, for wisdom, all right, I always tell my students, of course, wisdom is something that cannot be seen in books. Answer, you might have questions in your mind about life, and um, there have been answers that are not found in books, theories, whatsoever. So wisdom is something that we gain out of experience. Wisdom is something that is usually um, um, at the, how do you say that? It is something that you find from persons who have very rich experience, knowledgeable, expert about life. Yeah, that's how I would describe wisdom. So here, it says here, distinctions are made between implicit and explicit theories of wisdom. So we'll talk about implicit and explicit theories of wisdom. When we say implicit theoretical approaches to wisdom, it aims to articulate folk conceptions of nature of wisdom. That is, psychologists conduct studies to find out what the man in the street thinks of wisdom. So far, according to studies, people have a clear understanding of what wisdom is related to excellence and differentiated from other concepts. So people mostly, they know that when we say wisdom, it is something more than being knowledgeable. It's not only about being intelligent whatsoever. It's much deeper than that. So wisdom involves an exceptional level of personal, those that you can apply to yourself, and interpersonal, those that you can share with other people, competence, including the abilities to listen, evaluate, and give advice, and used for well-being of others and of self. So that's according to Baltes and Stodinger in 2000. So it's not only about the person himself. The person should be able to make use of that ability to listen, evaluate, and give advice. It's something that is both personal, intrapersonal, and interpersonal. So explicit theories of wisdom include those that define wisdom as a stage of personality development. It says here in Erik Erikson et al. How is it that Erik Erikson's mentioned here? If you can recall, Erik Erikson's theory is what? Ano ang theory ni Erik Erikson? Development theory. Psychosocial development. In what stage of psychosocial development theory is when wisdom is one of its virtue that is being developed? Remember that stages of development by Erik Erikson, the psychosocial theory of development. So we have trust versus mistrust. Ano pa? Autonomy versus shame and doubt. There are conflicting stages, remember? And then there's a virtue that would come out those stages, and one of which is wisdom. My question is, at what stage of psychosocial development is that evident? Anyone? I'll record your name twice if you will be able to answer
Ma'am
this.
Kasipe po.
Yes, Kasipe.
Industry versus, ano nga ba yun?
Wisdom.
Apo.
That's, you're talking about mastery versus inferiority.
I'm sorry po.
Mama ko po.
Higher than that, Miss Kasipe. So that's gaining knowledge. But when we talk about wisdom, it's something higher than that. Yes, Miss Durder.
Jamie, ma'am.
Jamie, yeah.
Ano, ma'am, at the stage of integrity versus despair, ma'am, yun po yung napano yung wisdom.
Yes, all right. So, good to take note also, Miss Kasipe, that mentioning about, so we can compare mastery versus inferiority. So that's that of knowledge, close enough. But when we talk about wisdom, it's higher than that. So if you would notice, people at the senescent stage of development, old age stage of development, it is when wisdom is being developed or being observed in that particular stage of psychosocial development theory of Erik Erikson. So, ang wisdom ay nasa integrity versus despair as a virtue of the last stage of psychosocial development theory. And talking about cognitive development, high level of skill development entails both personality and cognitive processes. Okay, so there's wisdom as expert knowledge, meaning someone knowledgeable about a certain field, aspect about life. So this is wisdom involving both personality and cognitive processes, and in which wisdom is being defined as an expert knowledge system concerning the pragmatics of life that links mind and virtue. So wisdom as an expert knowledge. So these are people who can actually give advice as to how they experience it, how they overcome something, being able to find practical solutions to their very own problems. So that's being expert in a particular field. So talking about wisdom pa rin ito. So wisdom covers knowledge about human development and its complexity and variations. Talking about biological, psychological, social, cultural, physical, conceptual. So it covers knowledge about human development. So what when we talk about knowledge, these are not only those that can be found in books again and again, I will repeat that. So these are fruits of experiences. This expertise is about how they actually gained knowledge out of their very own experiences. Next, we have wisdom as balance. So a balanced theory of wisdom is derived from the triarchic theory of intelligence. What are these triarchic theory of intelligence? Three aspects that comprises intelligence, and that involves analytic, practical, and creative intelligence. So let's discuss analytic intelligence first. So when we say analytic intelligence, it consists of information processing that guide intelligent behavior. So this is about knowledge acquisition, how do you acquire knowledge, performance components, how are you able to apply those knowledge that were acquired, and meta components with combination of these three of these two. For knowledge acquisition, we do not just simply absorb everything that the world offers. Knowledge acquisition components include selective encoding, selective combination, selective comparison, meaning we choose only from among the set of information those that are helpful, truthful, beneficial, those that will not pollute, disorient your very own thinking. So it's an ability also. When we talk about knowledge acquisition, we do some kind of selective encoding. For performance components, this is the ability to compare one's own solution with other possible solutions. So we're not only looking at one way of solving problems. So there are possible solutions. We're able to make use of our knowledge, our intellect on how to go about our problems, how to solve them. For meta components, so that involve using both knowledge acquisition and performance components in recognizing problems, defining problems and its solutions, forming mental representations of problems, and making strategies for solving these problems. So that's meta components. And that would lead to practical intelligence. So mostly people are known for being intelligent because they excel in academics, because they are gifted, because they are having an ability, exceptional ability in terms of different domains. But here comes practical intelligence. So while analytic intelligence is useful for solving clearly defined problems with a single right answer, practical intelligence is useful for solving vaguely defined problems with multiple possible solutions. Pagiging practical, in other words. It's the application of analytical intelligence to solving everyday problems. So some people, they might not be gifted in terms of mathematical, language, music, etc. But they are just good about life and how to solve their very own problems. They are able to find solutions to their situations. They have their unique way of coming up to solutions on how to um, make their very own existence, their lives meaningful. And in terms of success, it's something that they can um, it is something in which they can go or they can compete with other people because of their ability to be practical in different situations, in their conditions, whatever their situation is, they just happen to be having that quality which we call practical intelligence. So they can easily adapt to changes in the environment. Yeah. And there's also what we call passive knowledge or procedural knowledge. So these are kinds of people who know step by step on how to go about their very own decisions in life. If you would recall, the goal of positive psychology is to attain subjective well-being. So if a person happens to have encountered a problem or a situation in life, so with tacit knowledge, they would just know step by step as to how to go about that challenge and um, how to go about that challenge and how to solve it. So they would have these are the types of people who would try plan A, and if it fails, they do have plan B, and if it fails, they do have plan C. So that's that kind of tacit knowledge that we can associate here as an example. Next, balancing interests and responses. So there are tacit knowledge to solve problems in a way that achieves balance among multiple intelligence interests. Ay, shucks. Sorry, I clicked close. I hope you're still there. Ayun. Kasi naman, Why is it, Maureen? Why only now? We're about to end. So there's intrapersonal and then interpersonal and extrapersonal interests. So, if you would notice, intra and inter would have something to do with self and of the others. With extrapersonal, it's for everyone. So wisdom also involves applying tacit knowledge to problem solving in a way that achieves balance among these interests. So you're not only thinking about your self-interest, you're considering also that of other people and of everyone with interpersonal interests and extra personal interests. Let's go to wisdom and tacit knowledge. Tacit knowledge, once again, it's about procedure. So how are you going to apply wisdom to it? Because wisdom involves the use of tacit knowledge. One thing about it, it cannot be taught. Hindi siya na ituturo. It's something, because you are the ones making your very own decisions, plans, procedures as to how you're going to um, solve your very own problem. So it's an ability. You cannot teach someone how to do it. Only it's something within you that has that ability to plan for what to do. So well, it's something really personal when we talk about wisdom and tacit knowledge. It cannot be taught. It's an ability. It's something that you possess. They happen not to have that kind of ability. That's why it's called knowledge. It's something that you happen to be gifted with. Yeah. So tacit knowledge is acquired through personal experience and possibly through modeling, but not formal instruction. That's something that cannot be taught. So a person wise in our culture might not be wise in other culture because they have different sets of experiences there. And what advice that one culture can have may not be applicable with other culture. So for that reason, yan, why some people are wiser than the others? Because of tacit intelligence, because of the ability to solve problems in terms of practical intelligence. So according to balance theory, individual differences in wisdom may be due to many factors. All the differences in factors contribute to the balancing process involved in making wise judgments may be due to a range of antecedent factors. So other people are just wiser with others because of age, experience, motivation, personality, practical, creative, and analytic intelligence would make one definitely intelligent than others. I mean, yeah. So there are also controversies on wisdom. Yeah, that's something that cannot be taken out of the box every time we discuss psychology. Controversies will always be there. So some research argue that talents of gifted children are product of intensive deliberate practice. Others would say otherwise. Gifted children is innate, according to Wertheimer. And evidences will also show that it's both creativity being innate and also with support of practice and training there. Yun lang naman yung mga controversies. Here's the summary. Feel free to go through our summary. I'll be posting the learning activity in a short while. Other questions on creativity and giftedness, wisdom and creativity. Thank you very much, Casipe, Cervantes Alves, Arsenio, Tampus, Eristo, no? Wala ko kasi dito nakalala. Castro, Season, Reyes, and Jamie. Si Jamie twice for answering. Ano ba to? Ang bansa na to? Yeah.
Kay Erickson po, psychosocial.
Yeah, integrity versus despair. And also, sino yung nagsagot kanina nung nakalimutan ko isulat? Mastery versus inferiority. Who answered mastery versus inferiority earlier?
Kasiti po.
Okay. Alright, thank you very much for those who participated for today. Time check, it's 11:12. Again, quiz on giftedness will be posted so you can still have time to review your notes. At 12:30, I'm going to post it. Okay? So if there are no more questions, then have a nice day. Happy Saturday, everyone.
Thank you, ma'am. God bless.
Photo attendance, sorry. Photo attendance, please. Turn on your camera for photo attendance. I'll be posting it in a short while. In 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. I'm waiting for 10 more people. I will count 1 to 10. By 10, I'll take a photo already. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Yan lang ang present ha, yung mga naka-on yung camera. That means tulog yung iba. Alright, thank you. Have a nice day.
Thank you din po, ma'am. God bless.
Alright.
God bless po.
Ang konti na nag-open ng camera.
Thank you po.
Alright, thank you. Okay, bye everyone. I need to
Thank you,
charge my
ma'am.
phone now. Yeah, thank you. I need to charge my phone with that low bat. Wait for my posts.
Ma'am, sorry po kanina.